Some houses hold secrets in their walls, secrets so dark that they cling to the very structure, festering in silence. But what happens when those secrets are uncovered? When the walls, once silent, begin to speak? At first, it seemed like any other renovation project. The old mansion, long abandoned, was a place of forgotten history, a relic of a time long past. But as the workers began tearing down the walls, they uncovered something that should have never been disturbed, something that watched, something that whispered in the night. This is the story of what lurks within the walls of that old mansion, a tale of hidden horrors, ancient curses, and unspeakable forces, forces that, once awakened, could never be put back to sleep. A tale that begins with a single question: what happens when the walls that have kept their silence for so long finally begin to speak? The mansion itself, though long abandoned, is not the true horror at its core. No, the true terror lies in its history, a history that goes back centuries, to a time when ancient rituals and forgotten lore ruled the land. Some say the mansion was built atop an old burial ground, its walls enclosing the restless souls of those who once lived there. But this is just the beginning of a tale much darker, much older. Long before it was abandoned, the mansion had a reputation whispered about in the darkest corners of the town. Legends spoke of strange occurrences, of whispers in the night, and shadows moving on their own. But none of these tales were more chilling than the ones that spoke of the walls. For it was said that something, or someone, had been sealed away within them. The house, it seemed, was not merely built to protect the living, but to contain something far worse. According to local folklore, many years ago, the mansion's first owners, a family with ties to occult societies and secret rituals, stumbled upon something they were never meant to find. Beneath the earth, deep within the foundations of the mansion, lay a tomb, a sealed chamber, hidden from all but the most persistent seekers. But when they opened it, they found something that should have never been disturbed. What was sealed within those walls was not a treasure, nor a relic of the past, but something far darker, something that thrived on silence and would never allow its secrets to be unearthed without consequence. The tomb was sealed again, but the damage was done. The darkness, once confined, began to creep into the house. The walls, which had once contained it, now reverberated with whispers. And for every year that passed, the mansion became a place more cursed, more consumed by the malevolent presence that lurked within. The truth, what was sealed inside was never meant to be freed. But once it was, it would never stay silent again. For those brave or foolish enough to enter the mansion, the presence that remained in its walls would not be ignored. It would whisper, it would beckon, and in time, it would reveal its true horror. 5 souls, 4 investigators and 1 skeptic, decided to venture into the mansion. They came for the story. They came for the thrill. But they didn't know what they were truly walking into. The mansion's grim reputation had spread across the town, and yet they could not resist the lure of its dark history. Armed with tools, cameras, and the bravado of those who believed they were untouchable, they crossed the threshold into the cursed house. As they ventured deeper into the mansion, the air grew heavier. The walls, thick with the weight of secrets, seemed to close in on them with every step. They'd explored room after room, uncovering signs of decay, once grand portraits of long-dead ancestors, their eyes now hollow and unseeing. Broken furniture, pieces of a forgotten past strewn about like discarded memories. But there was one room, one space, that none of them dared to approach: the cellar. Despite the warnings, despite the unsettling hum that vibrated in their ears, they could not resist. The skeptic, who had laughed off all the warnings, approached the door, his fingers brushing the cold metal lock. It was there that the first sign of something truly wrong began to reveal itself. The vibrations grew stronger, pulsing through the air like a heartbeat, and the walls, they began to shift. Claire felt it first, a cold breath against her neck, a presence that shouldn't have been there. She turned, but there was nothing. Yet the sensation of being watched lingered, suffocating her. Something, or someone, was with them. As they continued to explore, strange sounds echoed through the mansion. Whispers in a language none of them could understand, fleeting shadows moving in their peripheral vision. A creeping dread began to take hold of them, though none dared admit it aloud. The further they delved into the mansion, the closer they came to the source of the disturbance. It was as if the house itself were alive, breathing in the dark shadows. Each room revealed more unsettling signs, paintings whose eyes seemed to follow them, strange etchings that spoke of ancient rites, of blood-soaked rituals that had been performed beneath the very floors they now walked. They were not alone. The mansion was awake, and it was waiting. As they approached the cellar door, the skeptic, now desperate to silence the mounting dread, decided to force it open. He took a deep breath, his hand grasping the rusted lock with determination. But as he twisted the key, a loud bang echoed through the air, a sound like a great unseen force striking the house. The lock broke free, and the door creaked open, revealing the unimaginable. The cellar, once locked away from the world, now yawned open before them. The heavy scent of decay and something far worse filled the air, making their stomachs churn. Despite the overwhelming sense of dread, the skeptic, driven by a need to prove there was nothing supernatural, was the first to descend the rickety stairs. He led the way, each step creaking under his weight, but with each creak, the oppressive air grew thicker, darker, as if the house itself were trying to suffocate them. The further they descended, the more they felt the weight of the place, the walls pressing in on them, the floor vibrating underfoot. They had no idea what they were about to uncover. But then, a shift. Something changed in the air, something primal, something ancient. The skeptic, his bravado beginning to falter, called out into the dark, his voice shaking as he asked the question that no one could answer. Is anyone down there? In that instant, they knew something else was in the cellar. It was as though the mansion had been waiting for them, holding its breath until they stepped into its deepest, most cursed corners. Then, without warning, the growling ceased, replaced by an eerie silence that echoed in their ears, suffocating and heavy. The figure, they couldn't call it human, slithered from the darkness, its skin a pale, mottled gray, stretched taut over an impossibly thin frame. Its eyes, black, endless, reflecting the weak glow of their torches like two pools of ink, and from its mouth, a low, wet sound, like 1,000 whispers from forgotten graves, escaped, filling the room with a sickening hum. It wasn't just the shape of the figure that paralyzed them in place. It was the feeling, an overwhelming sense of ancient malevolence, an intelligence beyond their comprehension. As the figure moved closer, the very air in the room seemed to tighten, suffocating them. The walls closed in with an unnatural force, pressing down, as though the mansion itself were constricting, trapping them in its terrible embrace. David's scream, cut short as he tried to run, echoed through the narrow cellar. But the moment he turned toward the stairs, The floor gave way beneath him, his body falling into the dark abyss below, swallowed by the darkness that had been waiting for him. Now, there was no way out. The mansion had them. The skeptic, once so sure of his skepticism, now stumbled backward, his eyes wide with disbelief. His attempts to escape were futile. The very walls seemed to pulse, alive with a malevolent will. The remaining members tried to flee, but the path to the stairs was vanishing, warping, stretching, collapsing into shadows. The figure, it was everywhere and nowhere. It was in their minds, in their breath, in the very bones of the house itself. And then they saw it, the eyes of the mansion staring back at them, as though it were watching them, waiting for them to understand the truth. As the group raced up the stairs, the air grew thick with something worse than fear, something primal, an ancient curse closing in on them. Every step they took seemed to draw them closer to the waiting darkness below. The mansion had tasted their terror, and it was hungry for more. But as the flickering flashlight revealed, the cellar door had vanished. The stairs were no longer leading upward, but spiraling down into an endless abyss. It was as if the house itself had swallowed its own foundation, twisting reality into a sickening paradox. They couldn't escape. There was no way out. The mansion had sealed them inside its walls. The only sound now was their own breathing, faint and shallow, as they stared into the black abyss, too terrified to speak, too paralyzed to move. And then, from the shadows, a whisper, a voice not their own, a voice that seemed to come from everywhere and nowhere, curling through their minds like smoke. The voice called to them. It spoke in riddles and fragments, its words twisting the very fabric of their minds. It spoke of the mansion's origins, of a curse that had long since seeped into the bones of the house, of something trapped within its walls, waiting for release, something that had been sealed away, something that had fed on the lives of those foolish enough to step into its grasp. And now, they were its next meal. Their screams were lost in the void, swallowed by the darkness of the mansion. But the mansion, ever hungry, never sated, continued to wait. It waited for the next souls to cross its threshold. The horrors they encountered, the twisted entity, the maddening whispers, those were merely a part of something much darker, something older than human understanding. The mansion remains, but it is no longer empty. What lurks within its walls now, no one knows. But perhaps you do not want to know, for some horrors are too great, too ancient, to ever be fully understood. They wait, patiently, and they hunger. What was once a place of quiet decay has now become something far worse. The mansion stands as a monument to the unknown, a dark testament to the evils hidden within the walls of the world. It waits, it watches, and it is far from alone. The house, like many others, is but a reflection of the darkness that lurks in the forgotten corners of our world. Perhaps these places are not truly abandoned. Perhaps they are waiting for you, for anyone foolish enough to seek them out. The souls of those who once entered, their fates sealed forever within the mansion's walls, are not gone. No, they are trapped, forever caught in the cyclical nightmare, forever calling out to those who might dare to listen. You see, the mansion does not merely consume, it is a prison. And those who enter, they too, become a part of its eternal hunger. Some things are better left unknown. Some doors are better left unopened. For when you seek the truth hidden within the walls, sometimes The truth is not what you want to find, and once you discover it, you may never escape. Remember, the walls have ears,